The TCL QM9K isn't just a TV, it's a shot across Sony, Samsung, and LG's bow. It's a message, and the message is this: we're coming for your premium market share because we can do top tier too. But if you're in the market shopping around for a new premium TV, the QM9K might be kind of confusing because the specs and performance of the QM9K versus TCL's own step-down QM8K are, on paper at least, pretty close. And the price difference? Well, that's another matter entirely. My point is, it's a tough choice to make just in TCL's own lineup, and then it's an equally tough choice to make between TCL and its competition like Hisense, and yeah, Sony, Samsung, and LG. So yeah, let's figure out who should buy the TCL QM9K and whether or not you are one of them. Welcome back to CalebRated, everyone. I'm Caleb, and today it's the TCL QM9K getting rated. Now, before I dive into the TV's performance, let's continue that conversation around where it sits in the market. You've probably already figured out that the QM9K is more expensive than the step-down QM8K. What you may not have noticed is that the price difference between the 65-inch units is about $800. It's $1,200 for the QM8K and $2,000 for the QM9K at that size. And the spread is much lower at the 85-inch level. At that size, the QM8K comes in at $2,500, and that's a way bigger TV for just $500 more than the 65-inch QM9K. But check it out, the QM9K is only $500 more at $3,000 for the 85-incher. So I gotta think, TCL's thinking, if you're buying big, you might as well buy the best. The thing is, that's gonna make decisions tough for people. Making matters more difficult is that the very competitive Hisense U8QG comes in at an unreal $1,000 at 65 inches and only $2,200 at the 85-inch level. That's less expensive than both TCL models at the big screen level. So this video is important. You need to watch to the end to determine if you should get the QM9K over the QM8K, but you already know that the comparison between the Hisense U8 and the TCL QM8K and QM9K is going to be the blockbuster video this year. And when I say you already know, I mean it. Y'all have been telling me in the comments for a few days now. Okay, so we have a tough battle set up here. We have to look at more than just picture quality. So what is the QM9K bringing? Well, it's got that no matrix bezel to bezel screen technology. It's got the WHVA panel, which I think dramatically improves off-angle viewing. It has a solid anti-glare treatment to the panel, though not as aggressive as a full-on matte anti-glare finish. It comes with a sleek remote. I think this is a great size, and I love that it has a YouTube button right there. Oh, and it's backlit. Huge win for that. It's got TCL's best audio on board. Plenty of bass on this 85-inch model, and the overall sound tuning is better than I expected. I'll say now that I like the sound tuning better than most of the TVs I've tested from TCL and Hisense in the past couple of years. It's not that it's impressive so much as it isn't awful, and while that may not sound like a high bar, it actually is. But I will say that if you want better sound, you can get yourself a soundbar, full-on home theater system, or possibly TCL's own Z100 Dolby Atmos Flex Connect system, which I will be reviewing shortly. There's an ATSC 3.0 tuner built right in for the latest over-the-air broadcast stuff. It worked just fine for me. I did have one viewer ask if I will tune into the channels without an internet connection to see what's available without DRM. I haven't tested that yet, but I will do so eventually and mention the results in a pinned comment. The QM9K runs the latest, greatest version of Google TV, and like the QM8K, it supports Google's Gemini AI assistant, which you don't have to use if you don't want to. You can also turn off the always listening mode if you want. What I really like about the operating system here is TCL's customization of it. I like this settings ribbon. Yes, TCL, I'm still calling it a ribbon. And I'm a tinkerer, right? I love that this can have everything I want and nothing I don't. Super fast to get to it and super fast to adjust it. Sorry, I mean, nerd alert, but I'm a big fan of this thing, and I think it makes a difference. It's one of the reasons I would choose a TCL over, say, a Hisense or Sony if all other factors were equal, which, let's be honest, they never are. There's so much more that this TV is hiding in store for you. It's got an automatic sensor to determine when you've walked into the room, and it can automatically go into its ambient mode, so it's showing artwork. That way you're never looking at a dark mirror, but it'll automatically shut down when you leave the room. I kind of enjoyed that feature a little bit, although to be honest with you, it did take a little while to get used to it. All in all, it feels very much like a premium TV because it is. It's got everything that you would want, so TCL's message gets across in that way. You know what else gets the message across? Deez Nits, which we'll get to right after this message from our mid-roll ad. Okay, so now that we're back, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty measurement results. Now, if that sounds a bit nerdy to you, no problem. Just go to the description and click the time code for the next section. For you nitpickers out there, here's what I got when I put Portrait Display C6 meter, CalMan software, and Meridio 8K7G to the QM9K. Let's start with SDR, like we always do. In filmmaker mode, with the default settings, the QM9K delivered about 500 nits of peak luminance. But here's the kicker. In a dark room with the ambient light sensor still engaged and the brightness slider brought down to 22, it absolutely nailed reference SDR levels. Now, if you're after that accurate cinema grade SDR experience, that's going to be the move. I have not tested how well the light sensor works across various in-room light levels because that would take days. Maybe in 2026, I end up doing that. But what I did see points to the ambient light sensor working well. But if you want the brightest this TV can do all the time, you're going to want to turn off that ambient light sensor as I'm doing here. You can get to it by pressing the 3 lines button on the remote and scrolling to the right. Now, the TV ships with this turned on so that the TV can pass certain energy regulations and get a good Energy Star report. But those of you who want ultimate control will want to turn it off. Now, if you do turn off the ambient sensor and crank the brightness and the peak brightness setting all the way up, SDR output climbs to around 600 nits, giving you a bright, punchy image without completely torching accuracy. It's a pretty flexible setup for hands-off users. You get excellent out-of-the-box accuracy when needed, but the headroom is there if you want to light up a brighter space. As for color, in SDR at various window sizes, the QM9K nailed it. I mean, reference level awesome. Now, this just further cements that TCL is serious about making a TV that stands up to the best out there at nearly any size you want, as long as that size is 55 inches or larger. The only deviation was in the primary blue color, which was slightly above the rest, but not by a meaningful amount. Now, HDR, buckle up. In HDR filmmaker mode with a 10% window, that's crucial, and the ambient light sensor disabled, we measured anywhere from 42 to 4,400 nits peak. That is wildly bright. It's one of the highest HDR peak brightness levels we've measured in any consumer TV this year. Can the TV deliver up to 6,500 nits? I'm sure there's a combination of settings and test pattern that makes that happen, but like most TVs, the moon has to be in the 7th house and Mercury needs to be in retrograde, and let's just get back to real world here. Even at those crazy bright levels, white balance stayed impressively consistent with delta E values under 5 at the brightest white, meaning white balance and grayscale held strong even as the TV hit blinding peak brightness levels. It even held on to 800 nits full screen. 839 once I saw. As for color performance, the accuracy measurements were amazing. And for gamut coverage, the QM9K hits around 79% of BT 2020 and 97% of P3, which puts it in the excellent territory for HDR content. It's going to make for vibrant, punchy color reproduction without straying too far from accuracy. Everything is awesome, right? Well, that depends on how much you lean on measurement data and how you interpret it. The caveat here is if you change the test pattern window size, you'll start to see some shifts in EOTF tracking and white balance. The TV's processing seems to respond differently depending on the window size. We see irregular tracking of the EOTF, and more interestingly, the color temperature at high brightness levels goes well off. Now, some of that comes down to how backlight technology on an LCD TV works. You're going to see that in pretty much any TV. But some of this suggests that a lot of work was put in to make sure the 10% window tested well. The question is, does a 10% window reflect reality, real content? How does the TV look when you're just watching normal TV stuff? You enthusiasts out there probably sense that there's a video coming about how TV reviews are broken and what needs to be done to fix them. You're right, that's exactly what I'm going to need to do, because this rabbit hole goes pretty deep. What I can say with certainty is that TCL's engineers have shown that they are capable of dialing in a TV's processing to produce reference-grade results. And I think that's important, because if there's one thing this TV shows us beyond any shadow of a doubt, it's that the brightness wars can be over now. It's going to come down to processing. That's going to be what makes the difference going forward. I mean, honestly, I seriously cannot imagine anyone needing a brighter TV than this. Not unless it's to produce a 10,000 nit tiny little highlight, and that's more about processing than it is horsepower. We get it. You can make a TV exceptionally bright now. Now it's time to nail processing, and I think that's the road TCL is on. The QM9K shows us that, but does it nail the job? Is it that much better than the QM8K? Honestly, that's a question I'm gonna have to answer in a future comparison video, because I have been testing and testing and testing this TV, and based on memory alone, the QM9K is very similar to the QM8K, except in a few very specific points. The only way to know the difference is to put them side by side, and I haven't been able to do that yet. But Comparison City next week, so you can expect that video to be coming soon. Probably a big wrap-up comparison video. QM9K, QM8K, Hisense U8QG. That's what we're looking forward to now. Honestly, if I tried to put any comparison notes in this video, it would end up being impossibly long. So we just need to move on and look forward to that next video. I am quite comfortable saying now, though, having reviewed the QM9K, that most of you should buy the QM8K. If you have the extra money in your pocket and you want to be able to say that yours has a little more, yes, we're still talking about a TV here, then the QM9K will do that for you. From a performance perspective, though, it's all about trade-offs. So what we have to explore now is which trade-offs do you want to make, and based on that, which TV would you want to get? Okay, time to get back to more essential picture quality stuff. Friends, if you're just joining us after skipping the measurement section, we just talked about at length how the QM9K is reference grade awesome in almost all considerations. Yes, I think that what I have here is called a golden sample, which means it's the cream of the crop of a super premium TV. But what it shows is that TCL has engineered something special, something seriously special. I think most of you should buy the QM8K, which is considered by TCL to be the ultimate choice. But the QM9K here, marketed as the ultimate performance, is looking pretty amazing. It's got more backlights and more zones, and that results in better blooming and halo reduction on the whole. It can also, in some instances, get brighter than competing TVs. It has the hardware with the horsepower to do so, but on balance, it's not blowing other TVs out of the water in the real world brightness comparisons. In fact, in some dark scenes, the QM9K ends up being just a tad dimmer, at least for now. TCL may adjust that. There is one area, though, which I think needs improvement, and that is in the motion resolution. This is a torturous clip here from The Diplomat on Netflix, because the cars are moving at a different speed from the camera pan motion, and as my friend Andrew Robinson pointed out to me, this is a manual camera move, not a motorized one, so there's some manual jerkiness here. But the TCL here is just not handling this challenging scene's motion as well as some of its competitors. On the Sony A95L that I have, the motion is much smoother without any motion smoothing at all. But on this TV, you do have to turn on motion smoothing to get better results. And while some purists may hate that, most folks won't have any problem with it at all. I liked it at 2 or 3 in the de-judder and de-blur at about 2. I would also like to see some slightly better cleaning up of color banding. Check out this YouTube video where we have a big color background around the talent, and you can see even with smooth gradation turned on, it could be a little bit smoother. And I have seen it smoother on some other sets, albeit with very heavy processing involved. Once TCL dials this in a little bit better, it'll just make the TV look cleaner with lower quality video. I have to say, it looks amazing with higher quality video like Netflix and Amazon Prime and HBO Max. Actually, the opposite of what I found to be the case with some colors on the Hisense U8QG. As for how it handles digitized film grain, well, about as well as any TV possibly can. It's gonna feel noisy, not organic. That's just how life is in this digital world. Film grain is excruciating on digital algorithms. So here's the takeaway, folks. The TCL QM9K is not the right choice for most people. That would be the QM8K and maybe even the QM7K for most people. QM6K probably going to be one of the best selling TVs of the year. But as far as whether this is TCL's ultimate performance TV, ultimate performance TV, I think on balance for most of the content folks are going to watch, streaming SDR and HDR with metadata at 1000 nits, most of the content we get. Yeah, I think it is the best that TCL has to offer, and it is extremely competitive. If the QM8K wasn't so stinking good, this flagship TV would make a little bit more sense in TCL's lineup. But I'm just not sure that making sense was necessarily TCL's whole goal. Again, I think this TV is meant to send a message, and it's doing that. I like what it signals. It makes me excited for what's going to come next from TCL. And I also think you get a lot more for your money with this TV in picture performance than you do many competitors. So while it may be a bit confusing to most folks, the QM9K serves a very special purpose for TCL, and it's a fun TV for a certain segment of folks like you to buy. You may not see me recommending this TV specifically very often. That's likely to be the QM8K, but you'll rarely hear me tell someone not to buy it if cost is no object. It's just an absolute marvel of a TV. Next is going to be comparison time. Until then, thanks so much for watching, everyone. What do you think of the QM9K here? I can't wait to read your comments, so start typing down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, take care. Honestly, I think the reason that it's a weird message is that you got money to burn, but you're buying a TCL.